Hey, what's up, everybody? So, sorry. I was getting some feedback there. I don't know why. A little earlier than usual. I'm usually a little bit later, around 45 minutes past the hour, but this stream is supposed to start, originally was always supposed to start at 6:30 CET, which is what we're doing here. Now, I'm only using my glasses because I have to read a physical chess book here. We're going real old school style with a paper book. I've got only a couple of games that have been donated from the subscribers, Arsenal and also, what's his name? Walter Goodman. And so I've included one of my own games for our analysis. Not my game personally, but a game I've added on my own. This is from 1969, and the player who is very dear to me, Bent Larsen, the great Danish grandmaster. So I have a collection of his games, and it's a not so well known book. So some of these games aren't in other books on Larsen. So this one is against, I believe, the Czech. I believe he was Czech, Medina. He might still be alive. I'm not sure about Medina. I'm pretty sure he was from Czechoslovakia. This is 1969. King's Indian and in reverse. And Medina's white. So Larsen black, really renowned for being a fighter with black. By the way, I have to get my stream up. Hold on a second here. We are up. Okay. So Larsen renowned as a fighter with both colors. So it doesn't really matter what color Larsen is because he's playing to win every single game no matter what. And he doesn't really like draws, and he plays, hypermodern stuff. He's a really terrific, was a really terrific counterattacking player and a player of hyper-modern chess. So this is Medina versus Larsen. Let me put these in the tags so that people don't have to ask. Can I do that? Can I add that? All right, new tag here. White name. White team. White. All right. Medina. Hello. And black. Black. Name. Larsen. Son of Lars. Alright, so Medina Larsen. Those are really big. I guess we should make them in caps. Anyway, not a lot of people here yet, but you can't even see that practically. Anyway, it's Medina Larsen. This is a game I haven't gone over as far as I know. So Medina's white. He plays e4. Larsen with g6 now, and this is something that I've been thinking about maybe playing more modern. I haven't played the modern much lately. And then Medina plays knight c3. So not the most common move against the modern. Most people will play d4 almost 100% of the time after e4. But this is a move that's like an invitation to go back into a Sicilian, someone who likes the closed games. One thing that I do want to note is that there's nothing special black can really do if against the Pirates or modern. White wants to play a kind of Grand Prix or closed Sicilian type setup. Oftentimes, really honestly, black's best option is to literally go back into a Sicilian. You can sit there and you can play the Pirates or the modern, but ultimately, like, c5 is a good move. So it wouldn't be surprising to see Larsen plays c5. He doesn't. Okay, he waits. He plays bishop g7. And now white doesn't play d4. White plays g3. And, this is interesting to me because Larsen himself played a lot of closed Sicilian type stuff. He played both the open and the closed Sicilian. So Medina's got to play what Medina plays, but, ultimately he's playing something that Larsen's pretty familiar with. Man NPC and Sinus High. So before we go to your game, Man NPC or Arsenal game, I'm going to do this Larson game. So I got to get my glasses on, and we need some light here. So trying to reach Close Sicilian, one of Medina's pet variations. Okay, I was wrong about Medina. I thought he was Czech. I don't know why. It's not a Czech name, it's a Latin name. Yeah, I don't know why I thought Medina was Czech, but he's Spanish. Okay, so he's a Spanish I am. One of Medina's pet variations, but in Larson's famous Black Notebook, the Spanish I am is characterized as a person who normally plays e4 and answers c5 with knight c3. So Larson decides not to welcome his opponent with an early c5. The point is, like, Larson felt that this guy is a specialist in the Close Sicilian, so he didn't want to give him that type of position he likes. So Larson, he opts for a lesser known variation of the King's Indian reversed. So, I mean, I'm not sure who this is a King's Indian for yet, but the author of this book, who's another Danish player, is calling it a King's Indian reversed. So we've got G3 and now E5. And, of course, this is much less common than C5. Basically, it's like E4, E5. Vienna, it's like answering the Vienna with G6. I don't know if that's a move order you want to play, but Black's got Bishop G7 in, so there's no funny business with like D4 here. The move order isn't that testing, so Black can get away with this. But the one thing that I do want to point out is the dynamic, very important dynamic in these type of positions is the F4, F5. Who's move 11? What's up? Who's going to do F4, F5 effectively first? Oftentimes we don't want to interfere with our F pawns. Of course, it's more risky for Black probably than White. But anyway, that's an important dynamic to keep in mind. So we play E5, giving White potential F4 breaks. It's too early to play F4, but it could happen very soon. Bishop G2, that's got to be the best move. Now, Black has, the option to move this pawn 2 squares, so he's not committed to playing D6 here. I would imagine that Black has a lot of options. Knight C6, Knight F6, D6, Knight E7. So you got at least C6 as well. So like 4 or 5 moves. I would think like C6 is playable. Playing like a bubble type Close Sicilian in reverse. But okay. Personally, I don't know. I would think Knight E7 is standard. And that gives you the F-pawn mobility. Knight C6 is standard, but cuts out C6. I think that we want to retain maximum flexibility. But this is the most common move here. Knight E7. Of course, it's more actively placed on F6. Move 11. Thanks for gifting a tier 1 sub. Let's take Arsenal fan out of that. Arsenal fan is he's the stream boss. Let's get him out of there. Also, someone has to donate some fractional amount to my summer tournament fund so we can get rid of this insane number, the 1465459240015. That's driving me crazy. Somebody's got to donate like at least 46 cents or something. So okay. Anyway, so this is from 1969. Medina, I am from Spain. I don't know why I got him confused with Duna. That's my problem. Okay. Now I understand what my problem is. Medina and Meduna are different people. Not to be confused with Medusa, the famous, snake-headed monster from Greek mythology. No, Meduna, Edward Meduna was a Czech grandmaster. Medina was a Spanish IM. Okay. Now we got it. Okay. Now. Yes, Arsenal, yes. So, Bishop G2, D6. Good move, but again, not the most flexible. All right, d6. Now white plays d3. White also, for his part, remember, white also for his part can often use these ideas of playing, playing d4 or d3 depending on what black does. So I think here knight e2 is a very serious move, and I'm not surprised to see, guys. Look at the statistics. Can you see it on the screen? If I highlight the statistics, white scores much better with knight on g to e2. Alright, so knight on g to e2 would be, I think, more flexible for white. Because then you're threatening d4, essentially, so you have to keep black on it. I mean, you keep black more honest. White plays d3. This is kind of like routine. Black plays bishop e6 now. This is definitely a weird move by Larson. Definitely a weird move. You have various options here. Knight e7. Even f5, probably not, but theoretically possible. Knight c6. All these different moves. Knight e7, knight f6. But he opts to go here, and you're like, why there? Why that move? Why bishop e6 here? This is interesting. Yeah, c6 we've discussed. c6 is certainly possible, but if you play c6, you'd rather play c6 prior to d6. This is a peculiar move, though. Why does he play bishop e6, per se? I mean, is this some kind of weird idea to go queen d7 quickly? Because if your idea is to go queen d7 quickly, your idea is to go like here, but that's white's bad bishop. I mean, this is a bad bishop, this is a bad bishop. You don't necessarily want to do bishop h3. It's not the dragon. The guy's bishop isn't on an open diagonal. So if this is Larson's idea to play queen d7, bishop h3, that could be kind of questionable. He plays bishop e6, and now I would expect, normal move here, knight e2. Possibly f4, because now f4 can be captured by the bishop. f4 could also allow white to play like, yeah, f4 is probably the best move. I mean, f4, allowing white to maybe put the knight on f3. After knight e2 is c5. It's possible, yeah, of course. But I think if Larson wanted to play c5, he would have played c5. c5 is inflexible, but it's, of course, a legitimate move. Yeah. So here's a really surprising moment, right? This game again from 1969, Palma de Mallorca, which was a very strong tournament. The Spanish IM, probably one of the lowest rated players. So imagine very strong tournament, Palma de Mallorca, which was a legendary tournament back in the 60s and 70s. Larson, a legend himself, but Medina, like a lesser player, so he was not even a GM, like one of the locals. Of course, not a lot of Spanish GMs. Bishop e6, h4. That's not a very nice move. You're playing a legendary grandmaster and you play h4 here. Caveman. Okay. That's a very, very aggressive move to play against a strong player, I would think. Larson gonna be fine with that. He likes chaos. They gave the annotator of this game said it's unusual and bad. Well, I wouldn't go as far as to say it's bad. Unusual, yes. Early, yes. Bad, I'm not sure. Any kind of case like this, I think h4 is playable, but risky. So, the author is saying, by the way, the author is a lesser-known guy, Eric Brondum, who's a Danish player. This is an older book. So, it's called Bent Larson the Fighter. I don't think h4 is so bad. The author's claiming like bishop e3, but I personally think that f4 is probably best, objectively. Because we can take back with the bishop now. And this opens the diagonal, but it also would trade off black's central pawn on e5. So it's a two-way street. I mean, this also can get open. So I'm not sure that black even wants to take on f4 necessarily. It's kind of a tough call. Although you'd rather not a knight like taking on f4, hitting your bishop on e6 probably. But anyway, h4 I don't think is that bad. It's just a very aggressive choice against a strong player. So what do? I mean, Most players, I think, here would like kind of automatically play h5, but it's unpleasant to allow h5. Clearly. Then we get alpha zeroed with like h5, h6. h6 is possible. h6 is possible, but I think it's going to lead to one of these situations where they're going to try to play like f4 followed by h5. So this is really... Yeah, I mean, it's possible. I don't know. You could play h5, and if white tries to, put a knight on g5, we can always play f6, keep him out of there, but it's something weird about this, too, a little bit. So, interestingly, there we play a very specific move now, knight f6, specifically stopping h5. I mean, if you want to sack an exchange like a maniac, then we're going to take it. I mean, this is for sure. You want to sack this exchange? This is not really a position where it's objectively sound. It's not the Dutch, although, theoretically you could probably do something like this. It looks unsound. So knight f6 stopping h5. White consistently carries out his plan, which unfortunately turns out to be quite wrong. Annotations by Brondum. So his plan, well, I don't know what his plan is exactly, but he plays knight h3. I don't know if that's part of a plan, necessarily. There is an idea of knight to g5. It's a move that seems logical in that it doesn't block too much like white's pieces. It doesn't block the bishop. It seems okay. It doesn't block the f-pawn. Knight h3 doesn't get in the way of the queen. It doesn't get in the way of the bishop on this diagonal. It interferes with the rook, but who cares? And it looks reasonable. And so the guy gives him a question mark on this. I mean, that's kind of heavy. I don't think so. The annotator of this game, he's not the strongest player. But I wouldn't give knight h3 a question mark either. I think that's kind of harsh. It seems reasonable. But what do we do? Again, your h6 suggestion is very obvious, right? h6 is most people's reaction here. This would be most people's reaction, kind of reactionary reaction. So Larson ignores it, this apparent threat of knight to g5. This is very interesting. He ignores it. He's like, I don't care. Whatever. Put your knight on g5. I'll send you back. Maybe objectively white should try like f4 first before trying to plant his knight on g5 or something. Obviously, if the knight goes to g5, it can get chased away. So black plays knight to c6 now. We could say, well, this is very classical development, isn't it? Okay, nothing crazy. Very classical development. And, well, both sides still have flexibility in terms of castling. Now, by the way, there's some ideas of playing d5. There's some ideas of playing d5. Well, castling queenside is a definite possibility. I mean, he clearly didn't have to play knight c6. You could put your knight on d7. You could play queen d7, but you don't want to play queen d7 and lose your light square bishop. This is for sure. So, like in a blitz game, I probably play h6. But again, h6 is kind of weakening. We can see f4. C6, like you're talking about earlier, also a move. Here, okay, white to move. What does he do? Doesn't like this. But I mean, the question that I need to answer here, really, and the author of this book just kind of gives light annotations, what would black do in the case of knight g5? This is kind of what I'm wondering. How would he have responded to knight to g5? What does Larson play now? Don't answer any important questions like that in the book, dude. This is an old book. It's a book I found in where did I get it? I think I found it in a flea market in Budapest. Somehow. So I don't want to give him our light square bishop. So I assume that Larson would move the bishop again. Bishop g4, provoking f3. Does that make sense? Or we just go back to like d7? Yeah, I don't know. This actually looks a little scary. Because honestly, if you go back to d7, maybe this type of thing like starts to almost work. I wonder if we could provoke f3. You know, if you provoke f3, it's kind of complicated because he could go there. He could also play f3. He could also play queen d2. But I think that we need to answer this question. Could you allow him to take? Would you really want to do that? You mean h6? You're the one who suggested this? I mean, someone might be even thinking this, but I mean, I don't really like these light squares, but it's not so easy for white to attack them. I particularly don't like h6, g6. You know, I like the pawn on e6. It controls key central squares. Yeah, I don't know what he would have done. It's really a good question. You need Larson to answer this. I mean, it's possible to go all the way back to c8 even. You know, who knows? I mean, d7 seems more logical. That's a safe bet. Could white try to sack the exchange here? So I'm thinking this. Now we go for it, and then if knight takes h5, we sack the exchange, and then you've got a threat on f7. And, you know, anything like queen e7, queen f6, you get knight d5'd. So it's problematic for black. Like, how do I defend f7? It doesn't look like we can defend f7 in a good way, you know? This actually looks scary. So probably that's not an option. Anyways, h4, h6. Sorry. That's not the game. I gotta make this the main line. Okay. Knight f6, main line. And then we go forward to, yeah. Knight f6, main line. And where's my main line? Blah, 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 blah. Bishop. What am I doing? h4, knight f6. Knight h3, where is it? Yes. And then knight c6. And then, okay. He doesn't play knight g5. So knight g5, bishop g4, f3, and then go back. And now if knight h5, then we take. This is probably the best guess. We go to g4, provoke f3, then we have stopped. You know, we've stopped h5 for a time being. All right, so that's probably what would have happened. Instead, knight f6, of course, he plays, yes, knight h3, knight c6, and now knight to d5, stopping d5 and clamping on that square, which is a normal positional move. Totally standard. Preventing d5. And now really surprising, fall out of your chair. What I like to call the fall out of your chair variation. We can learn from this, though, you know, because Larson is like willing to do stuff that normal people wouldn't do. Yes, he plays bishop takes d5. Unbelievable, right? It's unbelievable. Bishop takes d5, but I think he was, there's things that he understood that other people don't understand. That's why I'm studying his games, you know. Number one, the guy, he always tried to win, but he also created this sort of chaos, you know, like a kind of controlled chaos. You sort of expect it after bishop e6. I mean, on a pure level, it seems like it's a mistake to give up your good bishop for a knight, even in this close position, because we end up with, you know, both having bad bishops. On a strategic level, it seems like a mistake, okay, right? But let's see a little bit deeper what happens here. So black goes knight d4, knight e7. Knight e7, attacking d5. This is very concrete. So now white has two moves. Either c4, maybe more than two moves. c4, maybe bishop g5, indirectly defending d5, or possibly even c3. So he plays c4, the obvious move. Yeah. Knight d7 is fine, but it's a little bit passive. It's, I think, a reasonable move. No, he didn't play c4. Okay, I'm cool. All right. Yeah, c4 very committal. Maybe knight d7. And you want to go here, but you can also go here and stick your knight on d4. But anyway, he doesn't play c4. He plays c3. This makes some sense because you've got late squares. You've got queen a4 check. You've got queen b3. So I don't think that loses a pawn, right? I mean, if we try to take the pawn, white has queen b3, and if you try to defend this, I have queen takes here. This position looks totally fine for white. The queen's getting out, and the bishop's got a great diagonal now. So, all right, c3 is reasonable. Although, you know, in the long run, we're still going to have to defend that pawn. c3, h6, stopping knight g5, bishop g5. Still, the pawn is not threatened immediately because of queen b3. And now white plays queen b3, defending the pawn. And obviously, like rook b8, queen a4 check, and the pawn on a7 is hanging. So check this out. Check this out. It's like, certainly no way I would have played a game like this. This is very interesting. He just plays queen c8. He plays queen c8. What's the deal? Passive looking move. I mean, it can get hit by the bishop on h3 later. Who cares? You could play queen b8 for that matter. You know, you could even go here. So interesting, right? No threats for black. You think queen b3 not a good move? Well, I mean, maybe, but I mean, at some point you are going to have to defend this pawn. And it forces black to make a kind of awkward move. Queen c8 is a little awkward. We can play c6, but we're going to open that bishop on g2. I don't think it's easy to say if queen b3 is not a good move, Etan. I mean, how can you say it's a good move or not a good move? It's a totally like normal-ish move in this position, I think. It's difficult to come to a conclusion as to whether it's a good move or not. For me, I don't know. How can you say it's a good move or not? Black plays queen c8. White now plays bishop e3. What's white's plan? What's this knight? I mean, the one thing that Larson has really accomplished is that he sidelined the guy's knight on h3. So that looks bad. But black also has a very bad, like, bishop on g7, obviously. I mean, this bishop is restricted. The knight is no way to get in the game yet. And our bishop is restricted. Black has two knights that can play, and white has this, like, dark square bishop that can play. But he puts it on e3. Watch this, right? Bishop e3. Now, that's going to get attacked by knight f5, isn't it? At some point. Or knight g4. You have not right away, because queen a4 check. Note black's king still in the center. But, I mean, you're practically begging for black to play knight f5 here. White can give up a bishop and play opposite colored bishops. Maybe this is a safer move. To be, like, not attackable, you know, less accessible to the enemy pieces, right? Nothing wrong with bishop d2. Totally reasonable. Did somebody mention c6? Well, anyway, black can play c6 and try to overrun the center, but it's a very controversial sort of idea. You know, I mean, this bishop's going to get good, but maybe we override that. So this is a crazy position already. Bishop e3. And now black castles. He says, I'm not afraid of you. My king is castled. All of these pieces over here. And, but still, black has a lot of pieces around his king. And white's king is in the center. So let's see what happens. Now white goes queenside. This looks like, yeah. As I tell people, never castle queenside in the... Seriously, never castle queenside in the closed Sicilian. Almost never. You never castle queenside in the Benoni. Right, Arsenal fan? With white, you never castle queenside in the Benoni. And black has, yeah, a5, b5, but yeah, c6 looks the strongest. But, Larson has this huge weakness for rook pawns. I agree c6 looks good. I mean, obviously you're taking with the pawn to open the b file. You have a clear line to b2. The downside, well, it's not that easy to put more pressure on white, but maybe knight d5. We hope the bishop in the long run there. This is certainly absolutely playable. You think white wanted to play for d4 with bishop e3? Well, when we get to that position, right? Let me make that this is the main line here. By the way, maybe white wanted to play d4. Maybe that's the case, but you've got to deal with knight f5. Like I said, knight f5, knight g4. The bishop's position is not stable. But he doesn't have any way to know that black's going to castle here. Larson is extremely unpredictable. He may or may not castle. I certainly wasn't expecting him to necessarily castle in that moment, This could easily be like Chigora and Larson. So bishop e3 castles, queenside castles, kind of nuts. And then he goes a5, which is a very standard looking move, right? But, it is arguable that c6 looks a bit better, but it's different because it doesn't allow this bishop to open up. Plus, Larson just loves shoving his rook pawns anyway. But he's basically threatening to maybe displace this defense of the pawn on d5. Remember, white's probably going to have to play something like queen c4, because if he goes back, he's going to lose his central pawn on d5. Or he could play a4. Oh shit, he does. Does a4. Okay, now it's getting even scarier, because if we play c6, that's more weaknesses around the white king. So this is obviously a thought. It's probably too much. So, of course, you could make a lot of moves here with black, but this is the most direct. Play c6. D takes c6, now b takes c6. Anyway, that's what we wanted to do. And so, Arsenal fan c6 comes out anyway. So, black doesn't care. He's like, whatever. And your king is on c1. So this game doesn't last that many moves. White to move. Queen c4 instead of a4. Right. Yeah, absolutely. You could eventually threaten b5. I mean, it might be hard for white to play any other way. He goes here, which doesn't impress me. The queen gets out of the way, but it screams of I'm out of play. I mean, c5 is not an option, and d5 is not an option, but black can just play rook d8, queen c7. There's all sorts of different moves here. He plays another move, knight f5, defending d6, and there's no way to really challenge the knight other than bishop e4. And you can always take on e3. So who has the safer king? Black. All right, knight f5, bishop d2 now. And then black plays rook b8. And so authors comment, how nice to get such a position in the last round. Oh, this is the last round. And Petrosian had already drawn the final game. So before this game, which was in the last round, Larson and Petrosian were tied for first. Larson and Petrosian were tied for first, so Petrosian drawing, Larson wins the tournament, Palma 1969, which he did, by winning this game with black. And, I don't know who Petrosian played in the last round, but the standings before the last round, Larson and Petrosian on 11, Korchnoi and Hort on 10. Hort just died recently. The last of the the group there. Last year or whatever. So, anyways, rook b8, stupid closed Sicilian for white with castle and queen side. Now white goes nuts. White realizes, okay, this is a bad situation. We're going to go crazy now with h5. So that raises an interesting question. Do you take? No. You can't take because of g4. So you can't take with the pawn. I mean, you could take with the pawn. I mean, you have to consider it, of course. Do you play g5 and close, or do you play just leave the tension here? Anybody? What do you like? Because if takes, our white squares go, you know, a little bit south. Although he's got queen a2, this. There's a million moves that black can play here. We can always play d5. So, this is not an easy move. I don't know whether I should play g5 or just leave the tension. Queen a2 is mildly annoying. I mean, the other thing I'm thinking, like, if I allow the take and the queen a2 happens and there's a check, what am I going to do? Play king h7 and allow knight g5? I don't want to put my king on h7. I don't want to put my king on h7. I mean, maybe h8, but even the king on the h file seems like a bad idea. Queen e6 drops the c6 pawn. This is the problem here. So he decides to play g5. And his light squares are bad, you know. I mean, but he continues to box out the knight on h3. And he's just like, okay, yeah, you can sack a piece on g5 if you want to. Caveman. We're not afraid of caveman. You know, caveman attacks. What's his name? The guy, Giashaki. How many seconds would it take Giashaki to sack a piece here against Larson? Knight takes g5, h takes g5, bishop takes g5. But you don't have enough. I mean, you have some bullshit. But I don't believe in this, you know. Don't believe this is enough. So, g5. And then White's frustrated, so he plays knight g1. The knight has been on h3 forever, you know, and who can blame him for doing this? Knight g1, getting back, right? And then try to maybe play for f4. It's reasonable. Now, I don't know what to do. There's this, too. Possibly bishop h3. Not in this position, but maybe at some point. So, kind of surprising move. What's up, move 11? It looks so good, I doubt we even need the c6 pawn. Need the c6 pawn. True. But getting rid of it might be problematic. Well, if you give up the c6 pawn to bishop takes c6, well, we'll have, like, bishop e5. So that would be a kind of good defender. Yeah. No, exactly what Man at PC said. It's not the c6 pawn so much as bishop e5. So what I'm wondering is, like, what about just, like, d5 here? I think the problem might be queen c5. Giving up that square isn't great. So what about a rook move? I mean, do we have time for something like, you know, rook e8, rook d8, with ideas of this sometimes? Maybe. I think that's possible. So he plays another move that's very surprising. You know, it looks like black is weak on the white squares. Larson doesn't care. He plays c5. He's totally, like, abandoned the light squares. But it doesn't seem to matter. There's a greater force at work here than control of the white squares. But one thing is, like, ominous. The ominous thing is about, like, total general control of the center. In terms of control of the center, like, black is superior. It seems like c5. We're looking at knight d4 sometimes. So now white plays queen a2, which I think makes a lot of sense. And then another move that, of course, the guy, does he consciously come up with moves that nobody's like expecting? It almost seems like that. We're expecting development, maybe. What about queen c4? He plays queen a6, but I would think that would just encourage white to play queen c4. So if queen c4, we just go back to b6 probably. Queen c4. I don't want to take. You got to go here. Yeah, of course. And this sacrificing a pawn. Well, it's a pawn. So yeah, it doesn't look good. So queen a6 attacking d3. White plays king c2, getting closer to death and destruction. Isn't it good we don't have a central pawn? Very fundamental stuff, right? King c2, and then rook f c8. Oh, this starts to look really juicy. I'm seeing dead people. I mean, c4 itself is a threat of kinds, but this knight d4 looks really menacing. Yeah, maybe there's not enough, though, yet. Maybe it's not enough yet. If only we could clear this out, somehow. Black needs to get the other knight out of the way. So he plays rook f c8, knight e2. That defends here. And then, sorry. Wow. Yeah. Oh, there's a tactical problem. I thought maybe black was playing for d5. But I'm not sure that can even be played. I mean, you could take on d5. Maybe. I don't see anything right away. I'd love to play d5. I would think like we're just like killing white if he can't take it. Like white is gonna die. And this can be met by 97. Yeah, I mean, c4, Arsenal mentioned earlier, we're thinking about that, but he has this, apparently. Which is all fine and good till someone loses an eye. Yeah, my keyboard. Okay. I'm looking at this. Oh, you mean that diagonal. Wait a minute. Okay. Oh, no. e4. Okay, so obviously the knight is hanging, right? Why can't you take with the pawn? Stupid question. I need to know. I need to know. Why not? Arsenal, you got ideas, don't you? So now we have this. Because I'm not impressed by this. This doesn't look clear to me. Though even that's possible. Of course. This looks really interesting. Suddenly, like, white's king is in the middle of, World War III. You gotta take the knight with something. I don't know which way. Whichever way you take, there's going to be some serious chaos here. But I mean, this is starting to look pretty crazy. Takes, bishop takes, knight takes e4. I mean, just for starters, right? This down here looks good. It looks very good. So we got a notification. Oh, Sack Draw tipping $3. Okay, thank you, Sack Draw. Let's kill Arsenal fans' hit points. Anyways, that's the idea. So he opens up diagonal. There are tactics. He plays e4, and white plays bishop c1, defending d3. But I think that now we understand why you're not supposed to castle queenside in the closed Sicilian. We learned our lesson. But this was not a conventional game by black. Admittedly, I think. Bishop c1. And now d5, because we can. I saw this diagram and I was like, oh shit. This diagram's in the book. No, next move. Sorry. This is a diagram. One of the diagrams in the book. Except it shows it from white's side, which is, well, not as inspiring. Black doesn't have like a immediate forced win. It looks like this move is like kind of weird. Like, what are we doing? He's not worried about his H pawn anymore. He's just trying to like survive with white, and then he just like kills him. So black to move. Pawn takes d3 check. Rook takes d3. I mean, there's like d4. But d4 takes. This is covered. It's not clear. I mean, everything is kind of protected, right? But honestly, I don't know what white can do other than rook e1. Like, what's better than rook e1? I mean, what is white supposed to do here? His queen has, like, no squares, except for a3. I mean, could he take? No, he can't take. I mean, I guess he could take, right? Actually. Theoretically, he could take, and then on queen e2 check, he has rook d2. Theoretically, right? I want to, like, sack my queen or something, But this looks like it's not that easy. Because we don't want to trade queens. It looks like we have stuff. I mean, probably this. f3. This is really weird. Queen hg3. I mean, the white king doesn't look good. But he might survive. Well, at least for a while. So he goes here. Rook he1. Bishop c1, sorry. Yeah, d5. Rook he1. Doesn't give a shit about that, obviously, is g4. So, now knight d4 check. Now white's going to take with the knight, probably. But he takes with the pawn, wow. I thought he would take with the knight. It looks safer, but I guess he's lost no matter what. King safety, huh? But what's beautiful about this game is the harmony that black managed to finally, like, achieve. Everything is in. Now, the bad bishop became a great bishop. The knight's going to enter just in time. The other knight gives itself up to open lines. All the black pieces are placed perfectly. Knight d4 check. I expected knight takes. It looks like the safer option for white, I mean, clearly. But, I mean, there's an awful lot of pressure here on that. I mean, it's hard to believe that white can survive with this amount of pressure on c3. So he takes the piece, and I assume we're taking with the pawn. Pawn takes pawn. No. Wow, no. He doesn't take with the pawn. So what's the point? If he takes the pawn, king b1, it's not so simple. Okay. Okay. Fair enough. You guys probably saw this. If you take, there's this. This actually might I mean, I gotta believe this is still. I still believe this is probably good. I haven't checked it. I don't want to use the computer for this type of analysis. I gotta believe that Black has full compensation here. You know, I'm sorry, but just on feel. But I think the point is that the following move is better. The following move is better. He plays pawn takes pawn. It's like a little more forcing. So you're forking the knight and the king. White has to take it back. And now pawn takes pawn, and this is a liability. Okay, so what? Knight c3? What else? He doesn't play knight c3. But the other move looks bad too. I thought knight c3 would be played. I guess it doesn't pose that much threat. Would you guys play knight c3? I mean, I'm definitely playing knight c3. And I don't see anything better than taking. And now you have a choice to take with the pawn or take with the rook. I'm sorry, but I gotta go this direction. You know, I don't understand. Medina played king d2, but I mean, that looks insane. To me, that looks insane. You know, maybe it's just a matter of being materialistic. He's kind of materialistic, but walking right into knight e4 check. Yeah. I mean, he underestimated this, but this looks super strong. Check, takes, and now the pawns are like undoubled. So you have to do rook takes d4, only move, right? Every time he makes a move, it's something I didn't expect. It's unbelievable. The dude just, I guess he's in time pressure, but come on. Why can't we play rook takes d4? We're probably lost, right? Oh, okay, we have queen d3. So, it's mate. My bad. Alright, so rook d4 can't even be played. It's just mate. Bishop takes d4, knight d4, queen d3, mate. So, yeah, I mean, this is really insane. I mean, he has to, come on. He has to play knight c3 here. And he's under immense pressure, but still. I mean, this has got to be the only thing he can do. But this is crazy. This is just crazy. This is too crazy. Yeah. The control of d3. Look at the control of d3. We have control of d3. What are you going to do? It's over. Black goes rook a3. And then, yeah, white's up a piece. Congratulations. You're up a piece. Queen c6, threatening mate in 1. Very deep. White has like b3. That's embarrassing. He couldn't bring himself to play b3. The rook would be dead. So he plays queen b1. Better. Oh, man. And now d3. Brilliancy prize game. 1, 2. We only have one pawn for a piece, but it's a good pawn. It's a big one. That's a big one. And so now even knight c3 loses. The bishop takes c3 check, rook takes, queen takes check, and rook takes b1. So this sad knight, that's the name of this game. It's the sad knight game. I have a bad feeling about like bishop c3 check. Knight g1. Come on. Oh my god. Knight g1. Now f5 just because we love pawn chains. I'm sure that everything's winning. f5's probably winning. But he gets an exclamation point for the next move. It's kind of arbitrary in my opinion. Bishop d4, also a good move. He plays this, threatening this. I think it's important, you know, not to trade queens. Although even that might be playable. Black's position is so good, but obviously we don't want to trade queens. Queen c5. Threatening queen takes f2 check with devastating result. Rook a1, which is just really random. Is this right? Yeah, rook a1. That's weird. I gotta double check my glasses are working. We couldn't come up with that. Well, he's starting queen takes rook. Yeah, I mean, that's the point. No, he's starting queen takes rook. I mean, it's stupid, right? Yeah. That's why rook a1. Threatening this. Oh, look over there. Oh, this is embarrassing, right? Rook a1, queen takes f2 check, and then king d1. Oh, everything's okay now. Phew, I survived. Yeah, this is just brutal now. It's like Acerbate level. By the way, Acerbate's not here because his iPad had to be reset or something. Poor guy. So he can't be on the stream for 10 days. Rook a1, queen takes f2, king d1, bishop c3. That's just mean. And then white sacks the queen. He allows an elegant mate, right? I mean, this is cool. It's the last round of Palma. He allows him to checkmate him like an old school master mate. So that was a nice game. Anyway, I just thought worth sharing. All right. So Thurston won the tournament, Palma de Mallorca 1969, ahead of Petrosian, who drew the last round. Nice pieces on the back rank you got there. Okay, Eton sent me a game, the art director. Cheese.com, my favorite chess site. Chess.mom, sorry. His only computing device is a broken iPad. I mean, he used to have some sort of... There used to be some kind of desktop. Yeah, but what I don't understand is once he had to go somewhere recently, and he was able to play from somewhere he went to, so maybe he could bring his tablet, the tablet is transportable, I guess, whereas but now he's got a problem. He said, listen to this, I have to reset my iPad. So he has to reset his iPad, and I don't know when I can fix my account. It seems a new card is coming in 10 days. They confirmed when I updated my iPad to 26 that I was key padded. Does you guys understand what that means? He was key padded. I don't do Apple, at all. But a lot of people really believe in Apple, and I haven't since 1989. All right, analysis board. Get PGN. Wow, these glasses make everything look funny. I can take the glasses off. All right. Goodbye glasses. So, oof, it's weird now without the glasses. No, I just wanted to analyze a little bit with an actual physical book. What does that mean, key padded? Does anyone understand what that means? You have to reset your iPad, so 10 days? What's going on, You mean he has to get a new keypad? I thought it was locked or something, and the FBI had to come. He's a weird guy. Anyways, alright, so Arsenal is next. I've got to get the Arsenal game because Arsenal sent me lowercase self-typed PGN. Copy. Can I open in reading mode? No. Can I open in a new tab? Why is that not an option? Can I open this in a new tab? Come on, bro. Alright, I'll just make a new tab. No, I need that tab, actually. Alright, we'll just have to go back and forth. Arsenal versus lowercase. PGN Master. E4, E5. Knight F3. Knight C6. I guess I could use, like, freaking... Alright, where's my notepad? It's so annoying. Notepad. I'm just going to put it in Notepad. Arsenal fan, you're so problematic, dude. Did he leave? You know, the other thing is I have to, like, search for him because he's, like, chat banned. Arsenal fan. He probably got keypadded. Keypadded. Yeah, we got all E4 games today. Oh, I blocked him by accident. Sorry, bro. I couldn't resist. I meant to press the other button. Messages. Okay, here. So, hi, Bill. A nice game. Copy. Alright. This is a short game. Paste. Alright. Now I can see. So, let's go back. We'll open our little notepad. Notepad is so modern. That's why we love Microsoft. And I can't even move the freaking... It's unbelievable. There it is. All right. I was able to grab the window. E4, E5, Knight F3, Knight C6, Bishop E5, A6. Another great thing about Notepad is that it disappears every time I click on the window. A6, Bishop A4, it disappeared. There's probably some setting I can do. Knight F6, castles. And now B5. Which is early and often. No, honestly, when people play the open variation, move 11, are you here? There's some differences. I mean, B5 gonna be a lot of, you know, Archangel's stuff. But it could be, it could transpose to an open. So black plays B5. Bishop E3, forced. So now black has the two kinds of Archangels. The Bishop E7 and the Bishop C5. Or like an inaccurate, you know, normal Roy with Bishop E7. But normally Bishop C5 or Bishop E7. Bishop C5 the main line. D6 another passive move that can be played. So Knight C4 here is a mistake. It's a mistake. Or not. If you try to play the open Roy Lopez with this move order, I mean, wouldn't this just transpose? D4, D5 just transposes. So this is an important moment where white has another move. There's 10 games with rook E1. And even Bishop D5 is possible. That's, you know, the normal way to play the open is to play Knight takes E4 and then B5. So this is a weird move order if this is were to happen. Just checking. This didn't necessarily happen in the game. I'm just thinking about it now. You know, B5, Knight takes E4. Most people here play D4, but you have rook E1. Black has Knight C5, for example. Knight takes e5. Knight takes e5. Rook takes e5 check. Bishop e7. And then bishop takes f7. Though I don't know if this is even good. We're winning a8. Wow, this is totally unclear. So this is even wrong. Who are these people? Some correspondence chicks? So this is even wrong. You're supposed to play bishop d5. Another correspondence game? Random people I've never heard of. There's no games, dude. This has never been played. This is insane. This is insane. This has never been played. The best is d5. This is also unclear. So there's more questions than answers. It looks like white is good though. Knight c3, knight takes c3, d takes c3. Good to know. Good to know. It's still a lot like an open variation. Bishop e6, a4. Wow. That's just kind of random. Anyways, I don't think that's what happens in our hero's game. I was just thinking about it. So, no. Your opponent plays bishop b3, bishop e7. But at the end of the day, it's like slightly weird move order for black. So you're basically getting like an extra option here to play d4. He's giving you the extra option to play d4. So you haven't played rook e1 yet. So this is interesting. And then on d6, so the point is we get one of these, like, yeah, d6s where we don't have to play h3. There's always more questions than answers, you know, with these tricky move order things. Just more questions than answers. White is a very good score here. But bishop g4 is probably the best move. That transposes back into bishop e3. Just again, more questions than answers. h3. Weird. Bishop h5. g4. You're not going to see too many games here. This is crazy. Just correspondence. Crazy. This is apparently like a very critical line, and it's only been played in correspondence chess. Okay, anyway. Arsenal, understandably not interested in going into weird stuff. So he just transposes. I also am not sure about d4, you know. It looks very, very interesting. But apparently d6 is best, like clearly best. So if they take on d4, you're like almost winning. Yeah. That's amazing. That happened in Grishuk Nepomniachtchi 2016. This is extremely dubious for black. Who knows, like blitz or something, some accidental move order. Alright, bishop e7, you transpose with like rook e1. And then castles c3, transposing back and allowing the marshal. So, Arsenal fan allows the marshal. The guy plays d5 and he takes on d5, but black plays not the normal marshal with knight takes d5. What, Arsenal's black? Are you kidding me? Oh. Arsenal's black. My bad. Now you tell me. Now you tell me. Alright, Arsenal's black. Well, that's why the move order's all fucked up. No wonder the move order's so weird for black. It was Arsenal that's black. He's not one that's a picayune about move order. But he's good on the white side of the Spanish, so I thought he was playing white. All right. Yeah, I mean, he played a very strange move order. E takes d5, and of course knight takes d5. So e4 is another line. That's sometimes seen. It's considered to be not as good, but I don't remember. So make this the main line. I haven't looked at this in ages. It takes. Now it's one of those lines that White may not know. You know, people don't know. Okay, E takes F. Okay, I do remember this short Nakamura. This is important. The Nakamura short. Because there's some kind of like improvement here. Wait. I looked at this a long time ago. We looked at this a long time ago on the stream. Years ago. I definitely had it with White. So let's see what happens here. Queen F3 or D4. Now Queen F3 obviously seems safer. But if you play Queen F3, then Bishop G4 is possible. So there's another move, G3. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that that might be the engine move. Like this is actually good. And maybe Hikaru knew this. You know, he was prepared. So G3 played in 1973, but let's check. Yeah, it's the best move. Yeah, very few people know this. I kind of forgot. I forgot. G3 is best, and now Short plays Rook E8 and D4. Let's check if they played this correctly. I mean, I know Hikaru won. Bishop G4 was played. And now Bishop G5. So Hikaru knew this. H6, Bishop F6. I don't know where this was played. Bishop F6, Bishop F6, Knight D2. It's just a matter of White like memorizing it and knowing it. And White's like better. H3, Bishop H5. He's got it down to move 17. Queen C2. It's almost like Hikaru knew this was going to happen. He probably had it before. Blitz, Knight E4. White is better. Queen takes C6, Knight takes G5, H takes G5. Perfect game by White. By the way, Hikaru, you know, pretty tough back in 2010. Rook takes. I would say he was at his peak, sort of. Rook E8. And even this move is engine number one move, Rook E5. So it was like a freaking perfect game. I mean, Short knew what he was doing, and it wasn't good enough. Rook takes C5. He's basically, the whole line's been like refuted by Hikaru here. So that's good to know. G3 is like semi-refutation. But I mean, you know, I played it with White. I didn't play G3. I looked at the game, and immediately, you know, it popped up, and this was back in like 2017. Then you look at it and you're like, oh shit, this is good. You know, but Snapik found it on his own. Obviously in 1973, when I was, you know, 1 year old, strong player who values pawn structure and king safety might take this move seriously. So in Arsenal's game, I'm not expecting White to find G3. So he plays instead, he takes F3, D4. So this is the main move, but allowing Black to damage White's pawn structure. So, all right. Do we play Bishop G4, or do we play pawn takes pawn? Or do we play bishop d6? You know, one thing that I'm concerned about. Yeah, and bishop d6 is interesting too, because, you know, you would prevent bishop g5. Maybe bishop d6 is too slow, though. I'm not sure. Bishop d6, queen f3. You know, he's got this. So it's not like we're trapping white's queen or something. I mean, there's nothing there. So the real question is, like, pawn takes g2. So Arsenal, I didn't know Arsenal plays this line. Yeah, he takes on g2, damaging white's structure. Okay, the damage is done. So white's 7 pawns, black has 7 pawns. It's a really kind of chaotic situation. But I mean, clearly white's center is stronger, but his king is now jeopardized. So main line is queen f3, bishop g5 is possible, bishop f4 is possible. And the opponent plays bishop f4, which makes a lot of sense. I mean, you're protecting h2. Stanislav Bogdanovich. What's wrong with bishop f4? I mean, it looks like a reasonable move. You put pressure here. You're not in a hurry necessarily to win the pawn, but who cares? Someone played bishop d6. That doesn't look that scary. And this has only happened twice. Bishop d6 or bishop g4. If bishop g4, where does white put the queen? Where does white play f3? So I don't know. Black drew with bishop d6 and lost after bishop g4. Just 2 random games. So Arsenal's choice was bishop g4, but I don't know if white should play f3 or queen d3. Because once you play bishop f4, okay, like f3 is more weakening. But another thing happens here. Black gets access to h5 with the knight, which wasn't possible. So that's a new idea. Getting access to h5, maybe getting that bishop out of that position on f4 could be important. And obviously white is the standard undeveloped Marshall type position. So bishop g4, all right. And this is a tempo, you know, so it needs to be considered. Whether you're scared of weakening your kingside or not. I mean, it's really, and it's not only a tempo. I mean, it also controls kind of key squares. There are definitely downsides. Black can play like bishop h3, of course, and keep the pawn on g2. And there's access to there. So I guess queen d3 is less risky. Okay, so queen d3. We're following this game. And it's not a long one. Arsenal plays knight h5, same as Kozakov. Well, that's probably like the main idea with bishop g4. I'm not surprised by that. Now, white can play bishop g3, you know, hope to like fix his pawns. Retreating doesn't seem really great. But the move played by Bogdanovich here, bishop e5, looks viable as well. I mean, f6 isn't an option, so what's Black going to do? He had to play bishop d6, he ended up losing. It looks like Black can try to go for like knight f4. Black didn't have enough here. I mean, this doesn't look great, you know. So, I mean, maybe we could take, let's see, bishop d6, knight d2, bishop takes e5, rook takes e5, queen h4. It looks nice, but I'm not sure we actually have any threats. Meanwhile, white's getting mobilized. Knight f4 might be something. You guys have any ideas? So queen d3, I'm not impressed. Black plays knight h5, bishop c2 now. Not really a steady developing move. He probably expects like g6 or f5. Black can go back with knight f6, but knight f6 like walks right into bishop g5. So what options does black have? I mean, if you play f5, your bishop's trapped, right? For what it's worth. So it's not like black has that many options. This doesn't look great because of bishop g5. This doesn't look great because of h3 or f3. So Arsenal plays what, g6? Plays g6. White is clear pawn up. What's wrong with this position? What just happened here? What? Are you guys serious? This is the position? Yeah. Oh, this is the position. Alright. What's wrong with me? I was in the wrong position. Sorry, bishop f4. What did I do? Bishop f4. Bishop g4. Queen d3. How did I do that? I got into the wrong position. Knight h5. And then, okay, this is the game. Bishop c2. And I got in some kind of crazy position there. Make main line. I don't know how I made a white pawn up here on g2. So g6. Now the bishop's hanging. And white plays bishop h6. Which, you know, clearly there's bishop f5 here. So, well, we're expecting rook e8, right? But Arsenal goes bishop here with a very strong threat of bishop takes h2. If bishop takes f8, bishop takes h2 wins. So that's, I think, pretty easy to see. White doesn't fall for that. Bishop f8, bishop h2, among other things. King takes, queen check, king g2, and knight f4. You guys see that. But he plays instead king h2. This is mental, right? Okay, that's not safe. So now we're expecting like queen h4. And that's what happened. Yeah, queen h4, h3, and then bishop f5. And you can't defend this and this at the same time. Game over. All right, easy peasy. Guys, I'm going to take a 5-minute break. We'll be back with Gary Kasparov versus Leko and the game from Eton. So stay tuned. Be right back. Okay, we're back. That was kind of a short game. Sorry, guys. Nature calls. The The next game is Anand. Sorry, Kasparov versus Leko. Anand. Kasparov Leko. This is from Mad NPC, aka what's your name? Bob Williams. John Goodman. Where the hell is your name? Walter Goodman, brother of John. Okay. Then we've got the game from Aton. So let me get back there. Number 2. All right. Saxetraw said, "What? I'm so glad I didn't deride Black's play." Martial theme. The Leko is an interesting case because, you know, he's coming up with, in the early 90s as a student of a Dorian. And Dorian was freaking crazy. But, of course, an expert on the Sveshnikov and the Grunfeld. And the Hungarians were very big in the Grunfeld. So he's like playing the Grunfeld and the Sveshnikov, very sharp openings, in the early 90s as a kid. But then later becomes like Mr. Draw, right? He gets criticized for being too solid in his middle age. Although he came up again playing very, very sharp systems. You know, so Sveshnikov and Marshall. We see Marshall here. No, this isn't a Marshall, my bad. He actually played a normal Spanish. Okay, this is 1998. Yeah, okay, it would be crazy to play maybe the Marshall against Kasparov, although I saw A4. I thought it was an anti-Marshall. Oh no, this is an anti-Marshall. I'm not crazy. Okay, he wanted to play the Marshall, but he couldn't because Kasparov played A4. I get it. Okay. No, he wanted to play the Marshall. Yeah. Normally he wouldn't. He would play the Marshall if he's gonna play the Spanish. Well, Judith, you did also play the Marshall. Yeah, no, Kasparov didn't like the Marshall, of course. He never had to worry about that with Karpov. But, so we have a Spanish. Leko's black. He's not using the Arsenal fan move order. Bishop E7. Correct. Rook E1. And now B5. And now Bishop E3. Be careful with your Arsenal fan move orders. And now castles threatening the Marshall. Now, for me, the most memorable was, of course, quote-unquote world championship match between Garry Kasparov and the great Nigel Short, where I remember Kasparov first playing this anti-Marshall. But this is later. What? Kasparov Short was like, what, 93? I don't remember. But, it's reasonable to play the Marshall. Kasparov avoids it. A4, one of the best, if not maybe the best anti-Marshall. But there's other lines. H3, D3, I think, kind of lame, but it's okay. It's playable. So that's it. That's about all your choices. I never saw Garry accept a Marshall, actually. I mean, it's like there's a lot of variations that are forced draws. I mean, and it requires an incredible amount of memory. I don't see the reason to go into the Marshall. It's not really worth it. Take your chances in this anti-Marshall, even if it's like objectively equal. So B4 is main line. That's like Kasparov Short. There's been so many high-level games since that those games aren't even making the top games. Short's rating wasn't so high. So A4, Bishop B7, and now remember how Short qualified for the World Championship because he miraculously beat Karpov. Karpov's worst contribution to the history of chess ever, losing to Nigel Short to allow Short to play in the World Championship. It was a disgrace. D3 and well, I mean, you know, can Black can try to play the Marshal anyway, right? But I don't know where that stands, like, theoretically. Here's a bunch of games. You know, they try to play the Marshal anyway. I don't really, you know, I don't remember what the situation was with Leko. He was getting very strong by 98, you know, so he's no longer like a Dorian student or something. He's his own super grandmaster. He has his own seconds and stuff. Who knows? I don't know who he was working with at that time. It's a good question, actually. If Hungarian trainers or other players, D6, because Leko would go on to like play for the World Championship, maybe 5 years after this, 6 years after this, in 2004, when I moved to Budapest. D6, knight on BD2. So this knight A5 is a threat in some positions. But like specifically on knight C3, right? That's an old line, isn't it? Knight C3, knight A5. I probably played this with white. Here and then an annoying B4. And black can even sacrifice this pawn with like B3. So this has a long history. It looks like it goes back to 1980. And if you play like C3, it just would transpose. What does C3 do? C3 just transposes to like a Pilnik variation of the Lopez. It's pretty lame. So here's the dilemma. You have the weird bishop D2. I bet that wasn't played back in 1998. That's probably a computer move. To control A5, prevent knight A5. So, what does Kasparov do? Well, C3 is lame. Knight C3 is that old line that forces knight A5 and B4, which is pretty good for black. So, he plays knight on BD2. I guess this is best. And so, it's like a normal Roy where we just played A4 instead of C3. It makes sense, right? So knight here, bishop A2. Is black going to like grab the pawn on A4? That's a question, right? That can happen. I'm not familiar with this. I don't remember. That's what can happen. Knight A5, main line, bishop A2. Now if black tries to take this pawn, Stefan Juric. So, like, very few good players have ever played this for black. I just was kind of curious, like, how do we get that pawn back? You know, does it really matter? Pavlovich, Stefan Juric, 1995. Alexander Ivanov against F-pawn, 2004. But no one really great with black there has ever tried to take the pawn. Anyways, just a question. So black plays C5. This is main move. Knight F1. And now black has 8 million moves. Wow. B4 is the main one. B4 does not get the vote for being the most flexible move in the world. It's not flexible. But it's played in an enormous amount of games. But I guess the question is, why and what does it do? I mean, okay, we closed the position a little bit. Why does black need to play that necessarily? What if he just brings his knight back to C6? So that's bad for some reason. This is apparently like unfavorable. Doesn't look that bad. There's a game, Patrick Wolf from 1987. That's crazy. Alright, so b4 is the main move, not necessarily best. Unbelievable, people actually play bishop c8 here. Wow. That seems so crazy to play bishop c8 so early. What an amazing move. They're almost all what? Well, they're just not so many games actually. 74 games. Bishop c8. B takes a4. Okay, so it is played now. That's what they normally do. I knew that this was like familiar. So I was just getting the move order wrong. Black's taking that pawn at some point. But not everybody's cup of tea. Bishop c8, b4, b takes a4. All of these are weird moves, kind of, you know. Leiko's move is kind of more natural. Obviously, the drawback of Leiko's move is that he's going to allow maybe knight g5, and black has to go back. What are you going to do, d5? Rook e8 has a terrible score. If knight g5, does black push d5? Probably, right? That's superior to... Wow, there's c4. There's c4. This is even crazier, though. You know what's the craziest thing? No one's ever played knight g5 in an over-the-board mastery level game. That's insane, you know? That's really insane. It's a completely playable move. It's not bad, but black has c4. Equalizing. That's got to be played very commonly. Like Leech has probably #1 move. Bishop c8, very thematic. Well, man, NPC, I don't agree. I mean, I think that bishop c8 is thematic if the center is locked. But not locked, you know. I mean, it's not like you've played d4, d5 and you close the center. Then it would be very thematic. But I'm not sure it's that... I mean, you know a lot about these variations, but I don't know. For me, it's surprising. But I'm not an authority on this. It would be absolutely normal in a closed structure where, like, white goes d5. At the moment, we have pressure on e4. It seems kind of surprising to move the bishop off of b7. I know the pawn's solidly defended, but still. It kind of keeps white honest to a degree. So this is Kasparov-Leiko. Okay. Rook e8, and Kasparov plays knight e3. And that's always like a, you know, tricky spot to, you know, decide where to put your knight. Because g3 is common, but, you know this is often a bad square. Because your knight, you know, has to reposition itself later. So e3 is nice because it controls d5, but it blocks the bishop at c1. If you get to f5, it doesn't matter. So that's the idea with bishop c8. It was played here. We can always play bishop c8. Why not just play the Philidor? You know, would be my argument. Yeah, I get it. No, I know. I saw Ivanchuk played it. If Ivanchuk plays bishop c8, it's obvious he's playing for bishop e6. Yeah. Knight e3, h6. So this was played in 2001. I'm curious. I thought the game was played in 98. Maybe they had more than one game. No, it is 2001. Okay. I don't know why I thought 98. Where did I get that from? I must have been thinking of another game. I had 98 on my mind. I even said it. I was like, okay, shorts in 93. Kasparov shorts 93. I don't know where I got 98 from. That's weird. This is actually 2001, so Leiko was even stronger. Leiko's now like 3 years away from playing for the World Championship. against Kramnik, but Kramnik isn't world champion yet, right? He's going to win the world championship from Kasparov. This is right before Kasparov becomes not world champion anymore by just playing like an old fart and not even trying against Kramnik. So now bishop d2. Not a very exciting setup for white. Not like the old Kasparov. Though, okay, black played for the marshal. It's annoying. What are you going to do? Yeah, the marshal's annoying. I mean, to have to play this is a very different game than usual. We'd see Karpov, Kasparov. So now Leko goes c4. But the alternative is quite passive. The alternative of, what? Knight c6. If you play knight c6, you've like lost control of d5. White could just take his knight on d5. Maybe it's not a big deal, you know. We'd see a lot of games like Nepomniachtchi, playing positions like this with black. Who else? Like Ding-Liren. Black's okay, or Aronian. So white is a tiny bit better. Who cares? But Leko here playing combatively with c4. This is a new move at the time. But it cuts down the bishop on a2. But I mean, what's going on? You're allowing tactics like bishop takes a5, queen a5, pawn takes b5. So the main problem is this: bishop a5, queen a5, pawn takes b5. What's going on? Well, we just take back, and if you play bishop takes c4, we have queen takes a1. So white would have to try, like, I don't know what. Bishop a5 isn't really a threat, it looks like. That's the moral of the story. And this is Kasparov to move. So Cheparinov would later play b4. Grishuk, the only time this position was repeated, won. He was probably familiar with this game, I would imagine. So Grishuk repeated Kasparov's bishop c3. This is a weird looking move, but okay, he's like threatening what? Queen d2? What's the threat of bishop c3? I'm not sure it really has a threat. What is the idea with bishop c3? I mean, we're going to play knight d2. What exactly are we doing here? I mean, this looks stupid. Queen d2 isn't really a threat. I mean, black will just play knight c6. So, I don't really get what Kasparov's doing here, honestly. I mean, I guess, let's think about this. We can play, like, knight f5, right? I mean, seriously, you're white to play here. You're Garry Kasparov or whoever. What is our plan? You take on c4, you lose your, like, central pawn. You take on a5, you give up a good bishop for what? So it's, like, not easy to see what white's supposed to do. You can play knight f5. Maybe knight d2. Even though it looks really stupid and passive, it would help protect. It would help protect e4. So this idea to help protect e4 and increase the pressure on c4. I think here we are, it's 2001, and we're finally at that point where computers are really just starting to kind of influence opening theory. I mean, seriously. Before a little bit, but not really. Today, a lot. But imagine in 2001, you know. In the 90s, like, people didn't rely on computer analysis so much. Now they do. In 2001, I mean, they were pretty good already, so you could you could have already, like, I was certainly using computers to analyze opening lines. They were certainly using them. Kasparov playing matches with computers and shit. But I'm just thinking this looks very computer-like stuff. Bishop c3 is definitely an unusual looking move. The only thing it does is free up d2. And that's what happens now. Leko tries to keep the tension. Yeah, I mean, he okay, if he, let's say he goes here, threatening b4. Maybe this is a good question. My point is, like, anytime you take here, black's going to have this very disruptive capture. So you're saying knight d5 now, preventing b4. It's very closely calculated. Knight d5, pawn d5, nowhere good to go. Black would have to play knight b8 or something and just drop a pawn, ultimately. It's about the center, so knight d5 is the idea. Okay, this is very subtle. Queen b6 is an attempt to keep the tension, but he's also threatening b4, so it makes sense. And now knight d2, but that covers this. So again, Leko doesn't want to play b4. He plays knight c6, but this is protected now. The e4 is protected now, so why? Okay, so if you take on c4, you lose your bishop, right? That's gonna be a slight pinch. We can't take on c4. Taking on c4 doesn't work so clean. I mean, maybe we could do it, but it's very complex. It would result in complications. So the idea turns out to be this. Knight d5, e d5, and now an awkward move by Leko, knight back. Because otherwise he's just losing this pawn without a fight. And if you take, again, you know, you're getting sandwiched with b4. So he takes, eliminates the knight on a5, gives up his dark square bishop, takes, and then takes on c4. So Kasparov had to go through, like, literally, like a circus act to win the pawn, to kind of take out black's center to some degree here. And it still looks like Leko has some compensation. Because look at this, at the end of the day, you know, white's up a pawn, right? But not so clear, is it? I mean, he had to make a huge concession. Gary gave up his dark square bishop. I mean, this guy could burst through on this diagonal, or he could get back to that diagonal. White has very good control e4. But black has a kingside majority, 5-on-4. White has this massive armada over here, 5 against 3 on the queen side. But just, you know, asking for a friend, like, what happens if, say, like, pawn takes pawn? Let's start with pawn takes pawn. Pawn takes pawn doesn't look so bad, does it? I mean, white has some things, you know. There's like here, come across. It's complicated. There's knight e4 and c5, but I'm not sure, you know. And also, like, just pushing seems like it's a viable possibility. But what Leko does here, he takes with the queen. This looks weird, you know? This is a kind of weird move. I mean, I don't know. I'm very surprised by queen takes a4. Let's see what the engine says. Okay. So, it's a complex position where there's like 5 possible moves for black. Wow. At least 5 possible moves. b4 is number 1. B takes a4 is another serious option. Black can play almost any natural move here, and it's still like slightly better for white. But I don't think that queen a4 is a normal move. You know, this is kind of a weird move. So he must have missed something. I mean, Leko, I don't know what he expected. Did he expect him to like take or something? Did he expect take, bishop e3, trade all the heavy pieces and agree to a draw? I mean, you can't really be serious about this. That would be very optimistic to assume, like, you know, that's Kasparov's going to go for that. So he misses the shot, I think. I would only explain that he missed this or miscalculated. Our pawns have layers. Layers have onions. So where is everybody? We have 8 viewers? Seriously? Sprouting Blooming Seal has followed. You guys aren't allowed to leave after I analyze your games, by the way. This is Kasparov Leko 2001. C5, a beautiful shot. But I mean, that's a crushing threat. You know, C6 is a crushing threat. It's not game over, but it's very bad for black if we have a protected passer on C6. And suddenly Leko can't take because of D6, lights out. So the feeling you get is that Leko missed this. You know, I mean, I don't know what else to say. He had a lot of different moves he could have played. I've lost countless games to this, you know, what do I call it? The trash compactor. Brian McCarthy, FIDE master Brian McCarthy, coined it that when I was playing. I remember him calling it trash compactor, so I borrowed this trash compactor. But it is a trash compactor. I mean, so, oh, this is such a big move. Blunder, C5. Clear advantage to white. Yeah, now there's nothing you can do. Kasparov doesn't rush here. He could have just played C6 with a huge position. So this is interesting. Most players would be like, you know, satisfied with this huge protected passer. So after D takes C5, what? C, this doesn't win. What are you talking about? C3 only move. What do you mean? C3 only move? What are you talking about? This? Clearly not this position. I don't know which position you're talking about. Obviously, like D6. White's winning. A different line, yeah. Okay, so, but Kasparov not satisfied with just, you know, getting C6, because black can survive here, right? This has to be, like, huge advantage to white. But not winning by force. Black can blockade. So he goes here. This is another nice move. Continuing the trash compactor theme. There are possibilities, maybe even the queen getting trapped. There's rook here. But if d takes c5, You're talking about this line? I mean, we have these C3 ideas again. And if here you have this even. And if you try to go to A3, then we do that again. And so probably like you end up falling into the same kind of crap with like bishop takes F7 as before. So it looks really bad. Leiko is just screwed. He plays queen takes B2. Now the queen, you know, has this out here. So I imagine that white has probably more than one strong move here. I mean, trapping the queen is a great idea, but how do we actually execute that? Maybe C3. I'm not sure if that's the variation you're like talking about, because it looks very logical. Yeah, it's hard to see the queen getting out. You know, this is a very strong threat. But ultimately, you know, can we really trap the queen? I guess we're threatening rook E2. I mean, it's possible black could play, like, for example, queen A3. Queen is trapped. But exactly how? Bishop E3. Yeah, I guess simply trapped. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, C3 is very strong there. So he had better. Kasparov does this. I guess this isn't quite as good. And then black, you know, so black tries to just keep the tension. And black needs to survive, needs to get his queen out to survive. C3. Now the queen has only like A3, that's a bad square. F5. D7, unloading that threat. Rook D8. D6 check. It's kind of a matter of time until the black queen gets trapped. Now he's got this problem in addition, you know, this diagonal. Also queen H5. Knight G5 is mate. Oof. This brings back my memories of Rosenthalis. Whereas I sacked my queen. I mean, he sacked his queen and beat me. Knight C5 now. I imagine white has some awfully nasty moves here. Knight G5 is very tempting. This is very, very tempting. But, you know, black doesn't have to take it. And you can play like rook D7. So it's a beautiful move, but I'm not sure it's good. So Gary attacks the bishop. Bishop C6. And now knight D3. So how does this work? Now we have very vicious stuff. Queen takes C3, knight takes E5. Threatening rook C1, maybe. Beautiful control of the center. Bishop E4, knight F7 check, king H7. Yeah, now he does knight G5. Okay. Now he does knight G5, but where's the point? We're gonna take and play. What's our finish? Leiko resigned here, knight G5 check. Okay, that's nice, but where's the finish? So after king H8, you know, where's the final shot? It's anticlimactic at this point to resign in that position. Okay, so the rooks are defended. Yeah, I was looking at this, you know, this and queen D5, but unfortunately that's not good enough. So you have to take with a knight and go queen D5. Yeah, okay, good game. All right, guys, one more game. I've got Etan versus Hristos. Etan versus Hristos. It's an F3 Nimzo. So I'm going to come back tomorrow with, we're going to be back tomorrow with Blitz challenges, between 12 and 1. I'll be starting around 12, between 12 and 1 CET. So I don't know where everyone is, but Astrobate's not here because his iPad need a new keyboard or something. All right. So we got E10 playing the white side of the F3 Nimzo. I think that F3 Nimzo is very dangerous for both sides. You know, this is not recommended. This is not recommended for beginners. Take bishop. So on the last game, all right. My preference here for black is c5, but I'm looking from black's perspective. I also like what else? Well, I mean d5 is standard. D5 is also standard. And D6 is kind of an interesting move. I was thinking about playing this because it can transpose. You can use this move D6 to transpose to certain variations. With C5, I was actually thinking of using this myself. Lesser known variation. Anyways, I never played with white, the F3 Nimzo. D5, A3, bishop, you know, bishop can go back or you can take. They're two completely different variations. So, black plays D5, you played A3. Yeah, I mean, I used to play takes and C5. This is like main line. But bishop b7 is also maybe a little more sort of dynamic. And then there's all kinds of possibilities now. After e4, you know, e3 is more passive. After e4, black has all different tries. c5, the main line is like takes, and e5. There's also c5 there. This is sort of new, you know. There's some newer ideas involving an early c5. It was always, like, almost always this was the line. Everyone played e5. This was, like, absolutely standard. Main line, very old, well-known, you know, e5, d5, bishop c5. It's all extremely well-known. But I think these c5 lines are interesting because people don't know it as well. There's some undiscovered, you know, a lot of undiscovered stuff here, probably. And I think even this is unclear. But, anyways, e4 is main line. Black plays e takes e4. Oh, so this guy does this. This is a random 2500 named Christos. We can assume he's Greek. So takes c5. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. D5 is normal, probably. Just, you have a protected pass pawn on D5. It's a strong positional central space advantage, but he has the dark square diagonal here. So can black? Well, black was set up. The idea is to set up some kind of like bishop d6 blockade of the dark squares. So takes. Sorry, not that way. Takes. You know, which way do you take? E takes. Castles. Knight f3. Bishop d6. It reminds me of like Snake Benoni, or kind of accelerated. What is it? Sorry, Queen's Gambit accepted. Accelerated, not. Queen's Gambit accepted. This is all pretty new. If you see, all of the games are from 2018 or later, and I was looking at this before it became trendy. I looked at this since probably 2017, but I never played more than a couple games in Blitz. in any case, it was the computer, So you played e5. Now this move may not be good enough. That's the question. What's the problem with e5? Well, your center may be unstable. So let's see. First question is, of course, takes, and you're on his bishop. So he loses a piece. So black has to play this strange move. But he's prepared to do that. It's like at Haliahin or something. I mean, are you overextended or are you better? The statistics lead me to believe that you're overextended. But statistics, it's not the sample size that bothers me. It's that like 3 of these games are very strong players. 4 of these games are between very strong players, and white has not won a single one of them. That's bad. It's a bad sign. I mean, Firouzja Anand 0-1, Nair Leko draw, Bach Sevian 0-1. So white has scored 1 out of 4 in serious games in this position. It looks like that's not good. So you got to play without delving into any depth. I mean, you got to play d5. That's all there is to it. So e5 is probably not good enough. Good enough for a blitz game. Knight fd7, and now you did d takes c5, and I didn't know that's even the idea here. My automatic assumption here was that white is going to play d5 and sack a pawn. I mean, I don't really like the look of this. Your structure is bad. The other option is like knight f3. Knight f3 should be looked at. It looks a lot like Fleur Mykonos. Although a3 is kind of a weird move. It doesn't do a lot for you. Takes, queen takes, knight c6, queen f4. Or maybe, probably queen f4. Keeping control of e5, but there's no games where this has happened. Yeah, you're very borderline overextended. I mean, you got stuff like that. But on the other hand, black's queenside is kind of frozen out too. I mean, black is also very much stuffed in. So, but I think the d takes c5 is counterintuitive. Now, clearly that was a move played by these 4 strong players. So this is probably computer best move. What's the idea? Take and play b4? But this is not intuitive. I would think there's another way to play. Let's take a look. Yeah. So there are other ways to play. Knight f3. So d5 looks like it's losing a pawn, and you don't have enough compensation after knight takes c5. But this is playable. Knight f3 is playable. It's actually a TN. The variation I just looked at, except takes, knight c6, queen e4 is better than queen f4. So this has never been played. And it's zeros according to Stockfish. So if you want to try something different, this is playable. But for whatever reason, everyone's gone with pawn takes c5. And now black has a number of different moves. It's like a French. Now your pawn structure is all busted, so he doesn't have to fear this roller in the center. He has to decide if he wants to go for the e5 pawn, play capture on c5, or go for knight c6. I don't know. I mean, b4 looks a little dangerous for black. But you also need to get yourself developed. So black played knight takes c5, allowing a trade of queens. That's a new move. 2 games with knight c6. 1 game with castles. That's the random guys, the Chinese guys. Knight c6. Castles. Knight takes c5 is the new move. Apparently they're all possible. Yeah, this is kind of weird. You have a weakness on b3. You're not obligated to trade queens. But the engine move is knight c5. Interesting. My computer is not that fast. We could ask move 11 for a faster computer evaluation. So I don't know. But it looks like you can play queen g4. That's very sharp. Allowing knight b3. This is crazy. You're going to lose your dark square bishop. Could you try to take on g7? This is unclear. But you have a lot of weaknesses on the dark squares. You know, I mean, it's a lot like a French winnower. I don't love this variation. I guess I prefer knight f3. Knight f3, cd4, queen d4, knight c6, queen e4, f6, e takes f6, knight takes f6, queen somewhere, queen d3. This isn't great, but it's equal according to Stockfish. So knight takes c5, and you traded queens. Okay, bishop takes. Now this is a huge threat. Open position. You know, it's going to be kind of an open position where the bishops are going to be good, so the dark square bishop is a very important piece. The computer giving knight b5, that certainly wouldn't be my first thought, though. I agree with your move. You know, it makes sense to play bishop e3, get your rook out. Now I don't know. Black has difficult choice. I mean, knight b3 is the tempo. But, you know, you're just getting your rook to a good position after knight b3, rook d1. It's not clear this achieves anything for black. I wouldn't necessarily play knight b3. I mean, what am I going to do? Maybe he has, like, bishop a5. And everyone in the room saw it except for you. Bishop a5. Yeah, a little bit old. Rip. Alright, so yeah, I've been known to lose the white side of Nimzo in like 15 moves with white due to bishop a5. So anyways, bishop e7. Now your queen side is dangerous. Yeah, b4. Well, that's a problem. Why didn't you just defend your pawn? He has knight c6. Probably doesn't change anything. Okay, you're threatening that. Face hugger there on b5, very strong. Defend the pawn now. Castles, and now knight takes a7. Okay, knight takes a7 is a little greedy. Black has some f6 chances. He has to try to break out. So he also has b6, bishop b7. You played bishop d3. No, that's analysis. Okay, so you played knight takes a7. Going for the material. Not a fan of development. But it is a pawn. I mean, it's a big pawn. It's a really big pawn. And you're going to take out his light square bishop, which is a great piece too. We have really big pieces here. Do we have problems with tactics? Like you on the undefended rook on a1? So rook e8 now. Yeah, I mean, well, black needs to find a good move. So bishop c5. Okay, that is, you know, welcome to computer world. That's not gonna, you know, if anyone finds bishop c5 against you in a game online, you can be pretty sure they're a computer. I probably would have played b6. I don't know what I would have done with black here. Honestly. I want to play b6, but it's horrible because of this, you know. Actually, that doesn't work. Does it? Knight takes b4? No. Bishop takes b4? Nope. b6 doesn't work. The hard position for black to find a move. Of course, the guy's human. He played rook e8. I mean, it doesn't do anything. But what do you want black to do? I mean, maybe knight b8? Is this crazy? If that's my only way, honestly, to control like c6 and open up my rook And maybe I can play b6, bishop b7. Maybe knight b8 is not so stupid. You have this, like, stepping on him. No, that doesn't work. Okay. Yeah, knight b8. So knight b8, what do you do? This is actually quite an interesting move. Black can try to play b6. You can reinforce your control. I don't know. How's knight b8? Bad. It's bad. But he doesn't have a lot of alternatives, you know, like b6 is horrible. The computer move, yeah, it's the second best move. It's the second best move. Knight a b8. That's what I would have done. He can't find the computer move bishop c5. This is very bad. Doesn't do anything. And your move looks natural, but you blundered b4. Still, he didn't do anything. So you should just develop or something. Bishop e2 might be better because your bishop's like not going to be attacked by anything. If you put it on d3, it's more active, but it's likely to be attacked by some weird tactic, like knight c5 or whatever. So you just play like bishop e2, king f2, game over, you know, game over. I mean, he has nothing better than knight b8 again, or maybe the computer trick. So you just overlook b4. That's a huge mistake. Overlooking b4. Overlooking the park. We have a great view. Knight c7, knight c2, check. King d2, knight a1. Okay, this is chaos. Knight takes a8. Knight b3, check. King c3, knight c5. So what the heck is going on? So you lost everything. You lost everything back. And you have the worst pawn structure now. Enough space to compensate, though. Knight c7. Wonder if he should consider rook f8. Because he could get pinned on rook d8. I don't know. Maybe even breaking out with f6. I'm not sure his rook is better on d8. He might even want to have that d8 square for his bishop. I'm curious about rook f8 versus rook d8. It's very close. There's another strange move, rook a knight a4 check. But this is not an easy decision for black, like which way to go with the rook here. It looks like a no-brainer, but it's not really, you know, because f6 is one of his few freeing moves. And the rook is less exposed to attack on f8. That's a tough one. Rook d8, natural move, bishop e2, b6. Clearly the guy's not a bad player, but you caught him in this weird line. Knight b5, bishop b7. Yeah, he develops. So now he's suddenly like, okay. Your king could be good, but it could be bad. Suddenly black's position is harmonious. You played bishop f4. Bishop f4, very materialistic feeling move. Though, I mean, what's he gonna do? Bishop takes f3. Bishop takes f3, win the pawn. Maybe you take with the pawn. He's gonna take the pawn on e5. So what if you go rook d1, bishop f3, g takes f, knight takes e5, rook takes d8, bishop takes d8. Are you gonna lose this? You have two bishops. You can probably force an obstacle at bishop endgame. I'm not sure. I mean, bishop f4 a natural move, trying to defend the pawn, but how far do you want to go to try to defend this pawn? Now he plays g5 to undermine you. Yeah, I mean, your bishop's very badly placed on f4. So there's a point in a game where you have to be like, not materialistic, willing to lose a pawn, transfer to a drawn endgame somehow. Maybe bishop f4 was like that. And now you take. How does this work? Oh, he just forked you. Yeah, lost the piece. So anyway, it was like g5 undermines your whole position. So bishop f4 was pointless anyway. Anybody? Bishop d4. I mean, I guess this is a better move, right? If you have to defend the pawn with the bishop, probably best to just give the pawn up, though. Like I said, rook d1. So this isn't even his best move. After bishop takes f3, you're totally equal. Takes, takes, takes. Look at this endgame. Where most people would go on this line, you're actually better, even though you're like a pawn down in an endgame, because you have so much space and 2 bishops. Not better, but it's at least equal. So I think that most people would have gone for that. You know, the computer's like, no, he shouldn't go for the pawn. He can try to play, you know, more gradually and keep this powerful bishop on the board. Yeah, so I know it's usually a fast game from you. You dropped a piece there. Yeah, this is brutal. All right. Anyway, guys, thanks for joining us. I'll be back. I hope you enjoyed the analysis. I'll be back tomorrow with some blitz games, and we'll play for a couple hours Friday afternoon between 12 and 1 and probably till about 3. Thanks, Move 11, for being a founder. Don't forget to send Azerbate his new iPad keyboard. And what else? Sunday simul, classical simul, between around 6:30 p.m. CEST on Sunday. Sinus, Man NPC, Move 11. Thank you guys. Thanks for supporting the stream. Don't forget to donate like 46 cents so I can get over this. Somebody's got to donate like a very odd number. Can anyone donate like 46.137854, like whatever it is? Can anyone even that number out? I don't know if we can fix it. It's like busted. All right. See you guys.